Part 32. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 311. It snowed for 2 days, and everyone was clearing away the snow all the time. The snow stopped and we could finally rest. The 4 younger children, with flushed faces, ran to the kitchen to ask for credit from Feng Qingxiu. We cleared the path in our yard so that my aunt, sister, wouldn't slip and fall. Feng Qingxiu had just boiled a pot of hot water, soaked dried beans, and praised, "Ah, our children are so well behaved." She washed her hands, opened the cupboard, took out 6 pieces of maltose, divided 1 piece each, and asked the eldest Lu Tianzi to send the remaining 2 pieces to Lu Tianjun and Guancheng. "Stop being crowded in the kitchen, I can't even turn around, you just play in the yard. It's too ostentatious to go out with candy, maltose is not a small piece that can be stuffed directly into your mouth." I know, several children filed out obediently, and the kitchen became quite empty in an instant. Just after she cut a piece of wild boar leg meat and threw it into the pot to cook until soft, Feng Qingxiu heard Guancheng say in the yard, "Auntie, someone is looking for you." "Who's looking for me?" Feng Qingxiu wiped her hands and took off her apron. As soon as she walked out of the kitchen, she saw an old woman standing tremblingly at the door. "Third grandma. What can I do for you? It's snowing so heavily, the road it's not easy to leave." Feng Qingxiu said as she opened the door. Grandma Lu San grabbed her hand and said anxiously, "Xiaoxiu, come with me quickly." "What do you want to say?" "Don't worry. The roof of my house collapsed in the middle of the night, crushing your third grandfather. His leg may be broken. Go and check for him quickly." Feng Qingxiu was stunned for a moment, then turned around and said, "Aiken, go get my medical kit." Guancheng took the medical kit, and Lu Tianjun took out her military coat, military hat, and leather boots, and, "You go out and put on your shoes. The snow is very thick outside. If you step on it, you will hurt your calves. Don't freeze your ankles." The leather boots were given by Guo Xiuying before her marriage. They are made of lambskin lining and cowhide leather tops, which are very suitable for winter rain and snow weather. Feng Qingxiu hurriedly took off her purple striped 5i cotton shoes, put on leather boots, wrapped herself in a military coat, carried a medical kit on her back, and walked on the snowy road with Grandma Lu San. Grandma Lu San was wearing a pair of woolen shoes with wooden soles. She was old and the woolen shoes were heavy when she walked. Feng Qingxiu was very shocked when she saw her and stretched out her hand to help her. "Grandma, third, the shoes on the roof are heavy, isn't the snow cleared?" Nearly 90% of the houses in Wanglu Brigade have adobe walls and thatched roofs. The thatched roofs are replaced every year and the snow is cleared every year. Everyone is accustomed to it. For the personal safety of themselves and their families, except for lazy people, everyone does this. Grandma Lu San sighed, "Who will sweep the snow for us? Your third grandpa and I are too old to climb up, and we can't sweep it ourselves. Those sons are very lazy, you push it to me, I push it here, you haven't swept the snow in your house, why don't you come and sweep it for us? They say that raising children will save you from hunger. The more sons you have, the more disputes you will have." Grandma Lu San couldn't help but ramble, "When I was young, when my son was young, I was worried that he would have no one to accompany him, and I was worried that he would have no one to help him when we are old. When we are old, we have supported 4 sons, and we have to give them we built a house, married a daughter-in-law, and raised our grandchildren for nearly 10 years. However, none of them wanted to support us in our old age. The elder said that the elder should take care of us first, so the elder said that we had to take care of the children for a long time, and the second said that the third child's marriage cost a lot, and the third child said that we favored the 4th child. No matter what, it would be his sole responsibility to support him in old age, and now it's, ugh." Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 312. Feng Qingxiu had nothing to say. Whether you are filial or not has never depended on whether you have many children or grandchildren, but on your heart. With a filial heart, whether he has many or few descendants, he will be very filial when he should be filial, and vice versa. Grandma Lusan's 4 sons are very lazy, but it is a well-known fact in the Wanglu brigade. Whenever people gossip, they will say that they are lazy to death. If the work points were not related to rations, they would not be willing to work. Feng Qingxiu doesn't work except during the busy harvest time, but everyone knows that she is pregnant, and she usually has to treat everyone's injuries and deliver babies. She is very busy, and she also has the money and comrades sent by Lu Zhang. Live with what is sent. How much money do Grandma Lusan's 4 sons have? They can't starve to death just on that small amount of rations. Others are diligent in planting various vegetables and melons on their private plots, which can provide enough food for half a year. Their private plots are basically in a state of semi-barrenness. Even if the 4 brothers have the same personality, they still marry the same wives as them. It's really a strange thing. When we arrived at Grandma Lusan's house, with the help of the neighbors, the collapsed roof beams were removed, and Lusan's grandfather Lusunan was also carried under the thatched shed. Grandma Lusan's house has no yard, just 2 thatched houses and a thatched shed that serves as a kitchen. Lusunan was lying in the haystack, moaning in pain. There were many people surrounding the shed, all coming to watch the fun. Give way! Give way! Feng Qingxiu separated from the crowd and walked into the shed. She put down the medical kit and slowly squatted down with her waist in hand to check Lusunan's injuries. It was said that unfortunately, the roof beam collapsed and hit him on the legs. I reached out and touched his legs. One leg was broken, and the thigh bone of the other leg was probably cracked. The bones of elderly people are fragile, and a fall can often lead to broken legs. Moreover, in this case, the old man with a broken leg and a cracked bone cannot have steel nails, so he can only lie in bed and wait for the broken bone to heal on its own. Whether he can stand up after healing depends on God's will. Not to mention that medicine is backward now, even in the 21st century, when such an old man is sent to the hospital, the doctor will say the same thing. When she was in the military hospital, Guo Xiuying told her that the most important things in the countryside were delivery and postpartum care, as well as injuries and minor ailments. Wu Zheng also told her the same, so bone setting was one of the things she focused on learning. While Lu Sunan cried out in pain, Feng Qingxiu skillfully set his bones and fixed them with wooden boards. He also fixed the broken leg, fearing that if he moved around, the gap in the broken bones would become wider. Said, it takes 100 days to break the muscles and bones. Older people will not recover as well as young people. In less than half a year, the bones cannot heal. From now on, just lie in bed and rest. Grandma Lusan's tears suddenly fell down, and she choked and said, "What can I do? The house collapsed, where can I live? How can I, an old woman, take care of him?" Feng Qingxiu had no interface, and others had nothing to say. What's going on in their family? Who among the neighbors doesn't know? If only a few sons had been more diligent, they wouldn't have become what they are now. Don't just cry. What's the point of crying? Find your son. All of your 4 sons have houses. How can they not accommodate you too? Lu Ernang, Lu Sunang's brother, paused in anger. Crutch. As soon as he finished speaking, someone outside the crowd shouted loudly, "Don't talk about his son. 2 of his 4 sons' houses collapsed." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 313. Upon hearing these words, the crowd fell silent. After a while, Everyone started talking about it. Isn't this a coincidence? But if you think about it carefully, it is expected. The adobe wall and thatched roof are not strong to begin with. The diligent family clears the snow every year, changes the grass every year, and inspects their roof beams every year. Lu Suneng's son is too lazy to do anything. The wooden beams are rotten and will definitely not be able to withstand the snow. Lu Ernong sighed and asked if there were any casualties. The person who brought the news said, "No one was injured, don't worry. It collapsed in the morning. The children were playing in the snow outside and the adults were lying on the kong. The roof didn't completely collapse, just the part above their heads didn't collapse. They were lucky enough of." Since there were no casualties, Feng Qingxiu was relieved. She was relieved, but Grandma Lu San was so sad that she couldn't help but pat her thighs and burst into tears. "It's evil, it's evil. Oh my God, what can I do?" Feng Qingxiu shook her head and was about to squat down to pack her medical kit when Guancheng took over. She came out late in Guancheng. She was wearing Mao Wen shoes and walked slowly. However, she arrived before Lu Sunan was able to set her bones. She has been helping her, learning, and figuring out. Her attitude was very serious, which made her unable to do anything before. I believe that those who are studying medicine in Guancheng will immediately understand that what Feng Qingxiu said before about accepting Guancheng as a disciple was not a lie. Guancheng carried the medicine kit on his back and supported Feng Qingxiu, and, "Let's go home. Didn't you make an agreement with Aunt Qiwa a few days ago? I saw Aunt Qiwa when I went out." The Aunt Qiwa he was talking about was Jing Qiwa, and Feng Qingxiu asked Jing Qiwa to collect some eggs for herself. The conditions in Wanglu Brigade are good. Many families raise chickens, but they don't want to eat the eggs, so they sell them to the supply and marketing cooperative, or exchange them for some oil, salt, soy sauce, vinegar, needles, thread, and brains. However, the supply and marketing cooperative only accepts them but does not sell them. They send them all to the city for unified sale. Feng Qingxiu was not short of money, so she thought of buying eggs at Wanglu Brigade. Jing Qiwa was carrying a basket of eggs and smiled at Feng Qingxiu who had just arrived home. "There are 115 in total. I went to 4 or 5 houses to receive these eggs. I told them that the supply and marketing cooperative costs 5.5 for each. You pay 7 cents for each of their eggs, which is 1.5 cents more expensive. They are so happy that they will save the eggs for you in the future. They understand the rules and will not let outsiders know." "Excuse me, sister-in-law." Feng Qingxiu counted 8 yuan and 10 cents and gave it to her. Jing Qiwa said hurriedly, "You gave me an extra 5 cents. Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, "I don't have any change, sister-in-law, just take it." He turned around and asked Lu Tianjun to pick out the eggs and put them in the cupboard. He returned the basket to Jing Qiwa and asked Guancheng to grab a handful of fruit candies for Jing Qiwa to take back to her sweet mouth. Feng Qingyun volunteered, "I know where it is, I'll get it." Sure enough, with my little hands, I grabbed a handful of candies, about 4 or 5. Jing Qiwa kept rubbing her clothes with her hands. "Why is this so embarrassing?" "Sister-in-law, you're welcome." She braved the snow to run to several houses for me and delivered it in person. It saved us a lot of time and effort. I'm grateful from the bottom of my heart. Feng Qingxiu took the candy and stuffed it into her hand. Jing Qiwa naturally happily left with the empty basket. Before leaving, she patted her chest and promised to leave this matter to her. Feng Qingxiu waited for her to walk away, then turned back and patted her sister on the head. "You are a small person, but your thoughts are not small." Feng Qingyun stuck out her tongue and hurried out to play, fearing that she would be scolded by her sister. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 314. Feng Qingxiu and Guancheng arrived at the kitchen. Lu Tianjun had boiled the wild boar meat until it was tender, took it out and was drying it. He cut it into pieces and stir-fried it at noon. I bought a lot of eggs today, Tianjun, go and cut some garlic in the cellar, and we'll fry another egg at noon. When Lu Tianjun went out, Feng Qingxiu said to Guancheng again, I'll give it to your aunt in 2 days. Send some. Guancheng nodded, it won't take more than 2 days. While the snow is not muddy, I will go with Tianwan tomorrow. When the snow melts, the road will be difficult to walk. Feng Qingxiu thought for a while and agreed. Guancheng and Ansu's acknowledgement was not hidden from Lu Tianjun. Lu Tianjun came back after cutting the leek and nodded, just go, it's snowing heavily, and I'm almost going crazy if I keep it at home every day. Afraid that the 2 children would be tired, Feng Qingxiu prepared some dried vegetables, pickles, and dried radishes for Ansu, instead of cabbage and radishes. Lu Tianjun and Guancheng went to Ansu's house and repeated what they heard to Ansu. Ansu said hurriedly, my child, please sit down and drink some hot water. We have cabbage and radish at home. We store Chinese cabbage for the winter. We lined up to buy hundreds of them. A penny a pound. As she spoke, she was busy preparing lunch. Uncle Su helped choose the vegetables, don't treat the 2 children badly and go all the way to deliver them. I know. Scramble an egg and cut up the piece of bacon that Xiaoxiu gave you last time. Ansu rolled her eyes at him, then sighed, if Xiaoxiu hadn't helped us, we would be so hungry right now that we would eat snow. Lu Tianjun was stunned for a moment, I've handed over the public rations. Are you guys going to have a hard time eating commercial rations? He went to school in the city. According to his daily observation, the life of urban residents is 100 times better than that of farmers, because most of the people who starve to death are farmers, and urban residents have commercial food on a monthly basis. Even if they are not full, they will not die of hunger. How can there be an easy life in such a world? And Sue pointed at her husband and then at herself. Grandpa Sue and I each have a standard of 25 kilograms of food a month. We often carry. Liang Ben went to the grain store to buy food, and we were waiting in line, but the store was out of food. After all, there was still a shortage of food. Lu Tianjun said thoughtfully, so, the ration standard of our Wanglu brigade is considered high. Your rations should be the highest, and Sue said, in cities and towns, only miners and other workers who do heavy physical work have the standard of 45 kilograms of food a month. Even so, they have to face it from time to time. You have the dilemma of having tickets and quota but not being able to buy food. Living in your production brigade is your blessing, cherish it. Guancheng nodded vigorously and agreed very much. As far as he knew, Kahua Brigade had a variety of corn and sweet potatoes this year, with high yields and higher rations, but it was still much less than that of Wanglu Brigade. Didn't Song Lao's Huan say that? The strong laborers in their production brigade only have 200 kilograms of rations. And Su didn't say a word. Meeting Feng Qingxiu was their greatest blessing. Although she wanted to talk to Guancheng for a while, she was afraid of the impact, so she let the 2 brothers leave after dinner. Before they left, she forced Guancheng to take part of their newly paid salary. Uncle Su locked up the remaining 16 eggs. Qingxiu, this kid is really sincere. That's not true, the total supply of eggs for the 2 of them for a month was only 1 kilogram. Feng Qingxiu gave away 2 kilograms, and the remaining 16 were enough for the 2 of them to eat 1 boiled egg a day, which would last for 8 days. Just as he packed up the things Feng Qingxiu gave him, Uncle Su's old friend came to the door. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 315. This old friend's surname is Zhong, and his name is Zhongxi. He is an overseas student and a national capitalist. Apart from living with his old wife, the only people who are willing to contact them are Uncle Su and Aunt Su. Seeing him coming to the door, Aunt Su said, "Old Zhong, don't you have enough food at home?" Zhongxi was stunned for a moment, then replied, "No. No. Then why are you here in the snow and ice? Are you not afraid of freezing your old legs? When Zhongxi and his wife were first criticized, they suffered a lot in order to protect his wife. Zhongxi suffered a lot of beatings, leaving many traces behind. And Su has always been aware of the secret injury. Not long ago, Feng Qingxiu came to send a letter and something to Lu Jiang. She also asked Feng Qingxiu for 2 bottles of medicated oil for Lu Jiang. Zhongxi smiled slightly and glanced at the open door. And Su said, "Don't look at it. It's quite cold in this weather. Not many people are wandering around outside." Zhongxi nodded and took a sip of hot water. "Old Zhong, what's the matter? Just tell me if you have anything." Uncle Su sighed in his heart. No matter how prosperous they were, they couldn't compete with the above policy. "Are you aggrieved?" "Of course I feel aggrieved. Who wouldn't feel aggrieved? If their crimes were extremely heinous, then they would not say anything, but they are all innocent people. Just because of their status as capitalists and scholars, they are now being discriminated against and often criticized." Zhongxi whispered, "I'm here to say goodbye to you. Bid farewell." Uncle Su and Aunt Su looked at each other and said in unison, "Where are you going?" Zhongxi corrected, "It's not me, it's me," and Awen is his wife of more than 30 years. "So, where are you going? Have you found a way out?" After listening to Uncle Su's question, Zhongxi showed a smile without any haze on his face. "Yes, we have found a way out. Awen and I have completed the procedures for going abroad. We will leave for Shanghai tomorrow morning and then transfer to Hong Kong." Uncle Su was surprised and said, "Can you handle it? You have been abroad. It's a good thing that he hasn't been suspected of being a spy in these years. I went in the name of going to Hong Kong to give lectures. 2 of my classmates have been teaching in Hong Kong. After they learned about my experience, they were very worried and feared that they would not even be able to save their lives in the future. They traveled several times, went through official channels, and I went to Hong Kong to give lectures. After receiving this invitation letter, Awen and I completed the procedures for going abroad." Uncle Su breathed a sigh of relief. "Go abroad if you can, and don't come back until the situation calms down. I know, this is what Awen and I have planned. But I only say this in front of you. I don't dare to reveal it in front of the other 2 friends. Of course, I don't plan to say goodbye to them. You guys will do it for me tomorrow. Let's talk about it. If more people know, there will be more danger. I'm worried about something happening." Zhongxi's situation is actually more difficult than that of Uncle Su. Uncle Su is a stinky old man, and he was labeled as a Yupei member a few years ago. And because his major abroad is related to mechanical manufacturing, people are keeping an eye on him. Much. Uncle Su and Aunt Su understood very well. "Then don't reveal anything in your actions or words. Be careful." Zhongxi nodded and said, "I know that even if I go abroad to Hong Kong, there will definitely be people following me. When I get there, I will immediately change my face with Awen. If one day we can get together, don't deny us because of our different identities and names." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 316. How could it be? In our eyes, it's fine as long as you people haven't changed. After listening to Aunt Su's words, Zhongxi laughed. Uncle Su winked at Aunt Su, and Aunt Su nodded. She turned around and took out the 16 eggs sent by Guancheng and Lu Tianjun and a can of malted milk that she had received as a gift. Uncle Su bent down from the corner of the wall. He dug out a small box and handed it to Zhongxi together. Zhongxi was stunned. "Brother Su, eldest sister, what is this?" Aunt Su said sternly, "From a poor family to a rich man, in the box is the little gold we have left. You can take it with you. We have no way to exchange for foreign exchange. Even if you can exchange for a little before going abroad, it will only be a little, and it will not help at all. Gold will not help at all. It's an internationally accepted hard currency. You can hide it secretly and bring it to the car to eat. It takes a day or two to get to Shanghai from home. Zhongxi's eye circles suddenly turned red, but he only took the eggs and malted milk, and pushed the gold back. Sister, I took the eggs and malted milk, but I don't need the gold. You can keep it for future use, there are still many places. Awen and I hid a lot of gold and jewelry before the accident. We will take them all away this time, so you don't have to worry about our livelihood. Having said this, he reached out and took out 2 small brocade boxes from his arms and handed them to Aunt Sue. Aunt Sue was stunned. What is this? That girl whose name I don't know, for more than a year now, thanks to the food she brought, Awen and I have been able to eat human food and live a human life, without much hunger or suffering. It's so rare to be hungry in such a natural and man-made disaster. We are leaving, and I don't know if there will be a chance to come back in the future. I will ask you to hand over these 2 pieces of jewelry to her as a souvenir, Zhongxi said sadly. After falling from the top of the cloud into the mud, he understood what it was like to be in a cold world, and he cherished the little kindness he received in difficult times more and more. Aunt Sue stretched out her hand and took it. Okay, I'll give it to her later. It's just that you left too suddenly. If I get the news earlier, I can ask her to get you some supplies. Zhongxi said, people, be content. As long as you escape from this factional war, you can earn a living. It's not that he has no ability, it's the factional disputes above that drag him down, and he's in a difficult situation, which prevents him from having the opportunity to use his strengths. Uncle Sue held his hand and said, Old Zhong, be careful and have a safe journey. There is a colony there and the road is chaotic. When you get there, you too should ensure your own safety first. Don't worry, Brother Sue, I understand. Even though they knew it was a mess, Zhongxi and his wife still rushed there without hesitation. 3 days after they left, the neighbors noticed that they were missing. They quickly reported to the authorities that they had escaped, and finally got the answer that they had been invited by Hong Kong to give lectures. When Guan Cheng and Lu Tianjun sent a letter for Feng Qingxiu, they visited Uncle Sue and Aunt Sue. Aunt Sue entrusted them with the jewelry to be handed over to Feng Qingxiu. Aunt Sue also told them about Zhongxi and his wife going abroad. The 2 children are extremely smart, and like them, they suffer from childhood problems. In addition, the whereabouts of Zhongxi and his wife are no longer a secret, so there is nothing to hide, except that Feng Qingxiu once helped them. They handed the jewelry to Feng Qingxiu and told her at the same time. Feng Qingxiu was stunned for a moment, then nodded and said, it would be good to have a way out. Now that it has entered 62 years, it is a wise move for Mr. Su's old friends to leave before the cultural catastrophe comes. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 317. Unexpectedly, Uncle Sue and Aunt Sue suffered from the disease. Guan Cheng and Lu Tianjun were ordered by Feng Qingxiu to deliver something to their elders. After knocking on the door for a long time, no one answered. When they saw that the door was not locked, the 2 brothers looked at each other and gently opened the door. The room was in a mess, tables and chairs were overturned, boxes were wide open, and some clothes and quilts were thrown on the floor. The mess reminded the 2 of what happened to their own homes when they were young. His expression changed involuntarily. Did something happen? Guan Cheng blurted out. Although he was not very young when the accident happened to the Guan family, it left such a deep impression on him that he thought he would never forget that scene and that memory would stay with him throughout his life. Lu Tianjun said with a stern face, maybe, I can always find out something if I go and ask around. He was good-looking and young, so it was easy to get favored by him. After asking around, I found out that the departure of Zhongxi and his wife attracted the attention of the local people. They thought they were absconding due to guilt, but it was too late to catch up with them, so they usually walked away from them. People who were relatively close to him, such as Uncle Su, Aunt Su, and others were immediately taken away for interrogation by the staff of the relevant units. Hey, this world, I don't know what to say. What is your relationship with them? No, it doesn't matter. They just gave me 2 Waotu before Guancheng hesitated and replied. Yes, yes. Lu Tianjun reacted very quickly and nudged Guancheng with his elbow. The old couple once saved my brother's life, so we came to see them when we entered the city this time, but we didn't know they were not at home. If we talk about relationships, what does it have to do with our brothers coming from the countryside? It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. If it does, it will be a big problem. We ordinary people should stay away from people with bad elements. Who doesn't want to live? The higher UPS say they are bad, but they are bad, bad to the core. Of course Guancheng and Lu Tianjun didn't think so. Please tell us where they all went. The neighbor was kind enough to give them directions. Just take a look, don't get close. Thank you, thank you. Lu Tianjun took Guancheng away from Uncle Su's house, and did not dare to inquire carefully about the situation of the 2 elders. He was worried that if he inquired, he would be regarded as an accomplice and cause unnecessary trouble to his family. After all, the composition of the Lu family is really bad. Although Guancheng and Guanyu settled in Wanglu Brigade as orphans, they could not withstand careful investigation. Their identities dictated caution in everything they did. Tianjun, what should I do? I'm very scared. Guancheng tightly grasped Lu Tianjun's sleeves, with a look of fear on his face. If this continues, something we can't even imagine will happen to them. Will he be like his grandparents and father? Are you separated from yourself from now on? Lu Tianjun gritted his teeth, pulled him far away, and whispered, let's go home. No, you watch from a distance here. If Uncle Su and Aunt Su come out, you can see them at the first glance. Come. Don't come near, don't ask, I'll go home to find my aunt and see if she can rescue them. Guancheng had tears in his eyes. Okay. Thank you Tianjun. Lu Tianjun punched his chest. You're a brother, so don't be polite. Yeah, Guancheng nodded. Yes, they are brothers, good brothers forever. They are related by flesh and blood, and they also have a feeling of getting along with each other. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 318. Lu Tianjun ran all the way, and it was already past noon when he arrived home panting. Feng Qingxiu had just finished clearing the dishes, and when she saw him coming back, she asked, didn't your grandma Su leave any food today? Where's Aiken? Why are you coming back alone? What are you busy with? You're sweating from running. Button up your cotton padded jacket, don't catch a cold due to sweating. Lu Tianjun buttoned up his cotton padded jacket and whispered to her about Uncle Su and Aunt Su. What? Feng Qingxiu was startled. What does it have to do with other people going abroad? Although Uncle Su and Aunt Su are in a bad situation now, sweeping the streets and toilets, and being discriminated against, all because of the word group and the mentality of hating the rich caused trouble, but after all, it was not the time of cultural catastrophe, so he rarely suffered such humiliating beatings and interrogations. Of course, being homeless is already a disaster for them. Lu Tianjun shook his head and said, I heard some comments from people in the crowd. It seems that the person who went abroad went to Grandpa Su and Grandma Su's house the night before going abroad, so he was reported. If no one reports it, the relevant departments will not just arrest Uncle Su and Aunt Su. Feng Qingxiu hurriedly came to Lu's father to discuss. What's the heart of the people? Father Lu sighed. Your uncle, Tian Wan, and I will go for a walk. You can look after the cow shed for me at home. Father! Feng Qingxiu screamed, but Lu's father raised his hand to stop him. While he asked Lu Tianjun to invite Wang Zhenqiu, he said, "You are pregnant now, what can you do if you go? The snow on the road has not melted, making it difficult to walk. You stay at home. But tell me Shen Fiheng's contact information and prepare some more food and supplies for us, including fine grain and scarce supplies, as well as some money and tickets." Feng Qingxiu quickly packed a basket full of fine grains, bacon, brown sugar, eggs, etc., and then handed all the money she had on her, about 200 yuan, and a stack of bills to Father Lu. Father Lu carried the money bills and a basket on his back, got into the mule cart with Wang Zhenqiu and Lu Tianwan, and left in a hurry. "What kind of trouble has this girl Xiaoxiu caused me again?" Wang Zhenqiu asked directly after leaving the Wanglu brigade. "He who knows his niece is also an uncle." Father Lu whispered, "I have never hidden the origins of Guancheng and Guanyu from you. Zhenqiu, I have to trouble you this time. There is an aunt in Guancheng and Guanyu who is still alive. By coincidence, she helped Qingqing in the past. Shui, the two families have been in contact, and it was only later that they recognized Guancheng. You know what the Guan family is, and the family the Guan family married into is naturally not good. People from rich families are all talented people, and Wang Zhenqiu is happy to have a good relationship. Smart people must remember that a dragon remains a dragon when it falls into the shallows, and a shrimp cannot become a dragon when it reaches the sky." Taking a deep breath, Wang Zhenqiu said, "What are you going to do?" "Let's go find Chen Ming first. He has grain in his hands, he has a lot of face, and knows many people. I hope he can persuade the superiors to send the two elders to the countryside to participate in labor reform, so as not to stay in the city and waste commercial grain. Then, let's go look for him. Shen Fiheng has people he knows in all 3 religions and 9 schools, and of course he has acquaintances in all units. He uses fine grain and supplies as bait to try to get the 2 elders to be transferred to the Wanglu brigade." When Father Lu said this, he paused slightly and then said, "It's fine if they live in the cowshed. Let them live in the cowshed." Wang Zhenqiu nodded, "Then what should I do?" "When the time comes, you just need to agree to take in the 2 elders. The most urgent thing now is to prevent Guancheng aunt, grandma and the old couple from getting into trouble." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 319. Easy to say, hard to do. How can the back door be so easy to get through? How can people's hearts be so easy to grasp? Lu's father and Wang Zhenqiu couldn't leave traces of their appearance, thus implicating themselves, so they could only secretly ask Chen Ming and Shen Fiheng to send out fine grain supplies for free. In this world, it is easy to do things if there is food and materials. Lu Tianjun and Guancheng followed the 2 of them, holding each other's hands, nervous and worried. One afternoon was not enough time to deal with this matter, so the 4 of them stayed in the guest house for 2 nights. Wang Zhenqiu took his letter of introduction and the big red seal with him. As long as he had money and food stamps, food and accommodation were very convenient. Chen Ming agreed without saying anything. He went to find Chang'an, and Chang'an made it a foregone conclusion that Uncle Su and Aunt Su would be devolved. The main reason was that the 2 elders were old, cold, hungry, and beaten to death. The perpetrators were afraid of causing harm to their lives and would not look good on their faces, so they did not dare to leave them in the city, so Chang'an inadvertently told them to go with the flow. When they were assigned to a certain rural area, they decided to go to the relatively poor Kahua brigade. For the sake of Wang Zhenqiu and fine grain supplies, Shen Fiheng kept Feng Qingxiu's favor in mind, and because he had done business with people with bad qualities in recent years, he quickly changed the distribution location to the right person. At the cost of 10 pounds of flour, 2 pounds of eggs, 2 pounds of brown sugar, and a strip of bacon. The Kahua Brigade was changed to the Wanglu Brigade. When the remaining supplies were returned to Father Lu waved his hand and said, "Give it to my little brother as a reward for your hard work." Shen Fi Hung chuckled, "Then I'll be disrespectful." Although some places below the city had a bumper harvest after autumn and all public grains were handed over to the state, the food shortage in the outside world has not been greatly alleviated. The price of food on the black market remains high. On the contrary, because the new year is approaching, the supply exceeds demand. Shen Fi Hung thought the old lady at home accepted half a basket of fine grain supplies without any courtesy. There are also about 10 kilograms of white noodles and 20 or 30 eggs in the basket, which is enough for grandma to eat egg noodles for a month. Come to me again if something like this happens in the future. Although I don't have much ability, I often squander supplies, and there are 2 points of failure wherever I go. Shen Fi Hung plans to go to the Wanglu Brigade to get some supplies and return to the city to sell them to those in need. A people. Wang Zhenqiu warned, "Fi Hung, you must not let others know about this matter." "Uncle Wang, don't worry. If it's leaked, it won't do any good to any of us." Shen Fi Hung winked at him, "I'm just saying, how can these 2 people named Su still live well when their reputations are so bad? It turns out that they are lucky to have such a good relative like you, Uncle Lu. We can share will and woe now, and you can treat me as a relative in the future." Father Lu smiled slightly, "You and my daughter-in-law are cousins, so we are relatives." Shen Fi Hung clapped and laughed, "I just like such a happy person like you. I hate the behavior of those who are giggling, pretending to be superficial and want to build memorial arches, and don't admit that they are jealous of rich people. Okay, you 2 elders uncle, please go home quickly and wait for the notification. The second old man named Su is seriously injured, and the superiors will definitely send them away as soon as possible." Not long after returning to the Wanglu Brigade, Wang Zhenqiu received a notice from the commune. Uncle Su and Aunt Su arrived with the notice, which showed that the superiors were anxious, as Shen Fi Hung said, worried that the 2 elders would die in the city. Uncle Su and Aunt Su were so hurt that they were allowed to pack their luggage, but they did not have the right to add clothes or shoes. He walked barefoot to the Wanglu Brigade in single clothes. His whole body was stiff from the cold, and the blood from his wounds had solidified into ice. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 320. Wang Zhenqiu rushed Uncle Su and Aunt Su directly to the cowshed, and went to warmly entertain the staff who sent them and listened to their arrangements for Uncle Su and Aunt Su. "They are bad elements. Let them do the dirtiest and most tiring work, and their work points will be halved," the visitor ordered, foaming at the mouth. Wang Zhenqiu nodded and bowed, okay, I will definitely carry out the country's orders." In the cowshed, Feng Qingxiu had already prepared everything. When she saw the 2 elders, she quickly poured hot water for them to drink, wrapped them in clothes, rubbed their hands and feet so that they were no longer stiff, and then boiled water and waited. They were allowed to take a bath after they were warmed up. She and Feng Qingyun helped Aunt Su, and Guancheng and Lu Tianjun helped Uncle Su. After taking a shower, applying ointment, and putting on cotton clothes and shoes, the white rice porridge in the pot has already boiled out a thick layer of rice oil. Finally alive, after drinking a warm bowl of porridge, Uncle Su and Aunt Su, who looked brand new inside and out, sat on the straw pile and breathed heavily. There were tears in Aunt Su's eyes. "I almost thought I was going to die in this criticism." On the high platform, she was in despair. Father Lu sighed, "Big brother, big sister, be more open-minded, you will be lucky if you survive." Aunt Su is Guancheng's grandfather's biological sister. She is a little older than Father Lu, so Father Lu calls her and Uncle Su this way. Looking around at the faces in the shed, Uncle Su nodded solemnly, "Yes. Survival is a blessing. Brother Lu, we can be sent here, thank you very much for your help." Although they didn't know what happened in the middle, they knew that the Lu family must have taken action. Otherwise, they would not have been assigned to the Wanglu Brigade by such a coincidence, and they would have prepared clothes, medicinal materials, and bath water. Father Lu waved his hand. Why are relatives so polite? It's just that you help me and I help you, just like fish and water, no one can live without the other. I live alone in a cowshed and don't say anything when I'm tired from work. Now, it's very lonely without anyone to talk to. Now that big brother and big sister are here, wouldn't it be nice for us old guys to keep us company? However, Guan Cheng winked and asked Lu Tianjun to take his younger brothers and King Yun out to play, while he stayed and told Uncle Su and Aunt Su in detail what Lu's father had done in a low voice. Uncle Su and Aunt Su were shocked and grateful at the same time. Dad, how are you sure that Shen Fi Hung will help? Feng Qingxiu asked the question in her heart. She had been curious for a long time. Although I had 2 contacts with Shen Fi Hung, I couldn't tell a person's character. Father Lu smiled lightly. Filial piety comes first, and filial children will not be completely bad. Besides, what does Shen Fi Hung do? Speculation. People in this industry usually come into contact with all kinds of religions, and they must include people with bad background, which shows that he doesn't care about the quality of the ingredients. If your uncle comes forward and we don't let him work in vain, he will naturally be willing to help. Having said this, he added, however, everything can go smoothly only on the basis of forming a good relationship. If you and Shen Fi Hung hadn't had 2 transactions, we might not be able to find him and invite him. Aunt Su turned to look at Feng Qingxiu. Zioxiu, thank you. They had helped them with food and clothing before, and now they had saved their lives. They believed that being assigned to the Wanglu Brigade was their greatest luck, as it was much safer than being in the city. Auntie, please don't talk to 2 different families. You 2 elders, just stay here with peace of mind. 2 more chapters, please vote.